what is the Bitcoin layer to all of this? Like, when you think of all of this, you look at what is Bitcoin's role? What's its position in all of this?
When we put it in the context of the global economy cycling into recession, where Bitcoin stands or where it comes into play is that when you cycle into the easing part, policymakers are able to demonstrate just how diluted the currency can be. And that flood of capital liquidity, that it's not capital, the flood of liquidity that comes from policymakers, either fiscal, monetary, or both. In the last, it was both. In the great financial crisis, it was both, but largely monetary only. That it shows you an apolitical, policymaker-free currency algorithm has value. And so when you see Bitcoin rise, and this is, everyone wants to talk about, does the halving matter or not? And then actually Bitcoin's rallies have lined up with global easing and has nothing to do with the halving. I don't want to come down on either side there, but the truth is that Bitcoin performs really well when central banks go into easing mode. And we don't have...
There was a good chart on Twitter this week. Somebody said everyone thinks the halvings drive price, but he'd layered on the periods of currency expansion, and they actually just seem to line up with the halvings.
Yeah, we do a global liquidity versus Bitcoin price graph as well on the Bitcoin layer. It is basically an overlay of the major central banks.
And do you feel like we are in the next 6 to 8 months potentially heading into another period of...
What did we just talk about earlier? That they could be heading for 15 years of hawkishness. And I'm not saying that's my base case, but you have to think what might happen, what could happen. Bitcoin might not be able to extract value from central bank easing for the next couple years. Now, what is my base case? They'll be easing next year.
Okay, there you go.
Because we're heading into a recession.
During the halving.
Yeah, during the halving again.
So what is this? What is it? Has Satoshi lined up the 4-year halving cycle with business cycles?
The correct question is the global economy falling onto the Bitcoin calendar and block time?
There you go. What do you think?
I mean, I think it's, at the moment, fantastical and even far-fetched, but very cool to consider that in maybe 12 years, we could have a definitive answer. That would be really amazing. And I'm patient.
Yeah.
I'm patient to wait to see if that's actually a thing. But no, I can't go out on a limb and say that right now.
Okay. Talk to me more specifically about China. And the reason I have an interesting what's happening in China is more because of the conversation regarding BRICS keeps coming up. What will they do? Will they come up with their own currency? Will people increasingly start settling in the yuan? But people I trust and respect keep coming back to maybe they want to push for this, but realistically, you really want to settle in the dollar. It is still the most trusted reserve currency globally. Don't expect massive settlements in the yuan just yet. If the Chinese economy is in trouble, the yuan could be in trouble. Therefore, that kind of puts a kibosh in that.
Yeah, I think you have it absolutely correct.
You're completed it. All right. Okay. Yeah. Thanks, Nick.
So let me ask you then. No.
Yeah, go on.
I think you've summarized that perfectly.
Yeah.
And take it one step further.
Yep.
What type of BRICS block currency would we ever see? It's so, you want to talk about far-fetched?
I mean, the only one I think is a gold-backed currency.
That itself is very far-fetched. Any BRICS united currency, whether gold-backed or not, it is not even in the realm. By the way, in their recent summit held in South Africa, they removed or didn't include any united currency. It's not even part of their communique. or their list of topics that they discussed. Okay, so that whole thing is imaginary. The BRICS currency is imaginary. Going to the Chinese yuan as a settlement.
Sorry, just before that.
Yeah.
So is BRICS really more just a economic union? Is it like another G7 really?
Do you know that Xi Jinping is not going to New Delhi for the next G20 meeting?
No, I did not
Yeah.
know that. Okay.
He's not even going to India
Because
China and India aren't allies.
I know.
You know, they're not allies. And the BRICS, you're right. The BRICS is basically,
Is it
hey,
like
let's
the rogue? Is it the rogue G7?
Yeah, it's let's trade more with each other.
Yeah.
And that I'm not going to deny that that's happening. And let's even use our own currencies in cross-border settlement. Sure, that'll happen too. And it's been happening. And I'm not denying any of that. But they're not really a bloc. They're not united in any effort to dethrone the dollar. That's kind of the thing. If they were united in an effort to dethrone the dollar, they would actually come together and start a currency and actually try to challenge it with a bond market and financial plumbing and a repo market. You understand none of that stuff it's imaginary for a BRICS united currency, doesn't really exist in any internationalized sense for the Chinese yuan whatsoever. The Chinese yuan isn't a convertible currency around the world either. So there's just nothing. It's a bunch of nothing.
Bunch of signal.
On the currency front. But on a geopolitical and a trading front, there's no denying that we are in a multipolar world. It just doesn't apply to the monetary system.
Okay.
And more importantly, I don't think that it will apply to the monetary system in the coming years, right? I always caution against making, projections too far out, but there's nothing that shows us that, in 5 years we'll have a BRICS currency. No, I would fade that I would fade that argument.